Hello and good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be. This is Paul De La Garza with High Performance Business Solutions. We're about to get started on the latest installment of our coaching minute at High Performance Business Solutions. This is a weekly installment that we have on different aspects of leadership that I encourage you to ensure that you join in because you will always leave with something that you can implement immediately. So we're about to get started in a couple of minutes. I hope that you can get comfortable, take out your notepads, because there are a couple of nuggets today that I think that if you're in a position of leadership, you're going to find of value. So I'm really excited to share this information with you. And let's get started. Hi, this is Paul De La Garza with High Performance Business Solutions, and I want to thank you for actually joining today in our latest installment of our weekly coaching minute on leadership. Let's get started, which basically deals with the balancing of leadership and management. And the bottom line here is that, as you see, my name is Paul De La Garza. The bottom line is that leadership and management have to have a very delicate balance in terms of the way they function with each other. And for those of you that have got exclusively a position of leadership or management, you're going to be able to see the differences. However, there are a number of you that are going to have to deal with actually both. You straddle both spaces in certain aspects of your work, leadership, and other aspects, management. And we're going to speak about that today. So let's get started. Let's start with a very basic principle of what leadership is and what it isn't. Essentially, leaders, and check this out, leaders are those people, and please consider this carefully, whose decisions or non decisions have a significant impact, disproportionate and sustained, on the environment, the culture, and the actions of a particular group within an organizational setting. In other words, from all perspectives, a leader is going to have a cultural definition. It's what I call the thermostatic effect of leadership. And as a result of that, leadership is the relationship that informs, shapes the choices made by a particular group simply because the leader has that aspects of vision, defines the overall general direction. You're going to see that the manager is a little bit more grounded from the standpoint of implementing procedures that have already been pre-established. So let's talk about what leadership is and what leadership isn't. Leadership is a relationship and a process, and it has a purpose, it has a vision, it has a direction, essentially a core purpose, the reason as to why the organization exists beyond just making money. What is the primary purpose and point of contribution? Okay. It takes place on a number of different levels. Those of you that are in senior positions, you're going to lead through your leaders. Those of you that are at where the rubber meets the road, you're going to exact still certain leadership behaviors that are going to be very useful as you begin to exact your day-to-day activities. It involves a sense of responsibility, and it's tempered, it's managed, it's governed by the ethics. Because what you're going to hear later today, later in this podcast, is that leadership is predominantly conferred by the teams, and it's character and ethics driven. Ultimately, leaders are defined by those people that we call followers. In other words, you cannot claim to be a leader. You may be in a position of authority. You may be in a position of executive status. That does not make you a leader. It makes you a person that has legitimate power, the power to hire, fire, govern policies, etc. But leadership is a little bit different because leadership has to be conferred to that individual by a team. And the way they do that is because of the fact that they see the character, the ethics, the aspects that they see and wish to have in themselves, and that's what compels them to follow that individual. It's not about a person or a matter of effective management. It's not about a label that you see for yourself or anything, something like that, or doing a job well done, or being a good citizen for that matter. It's not about a birthright, if you really come down to it. It's about something considerably more. Because leaderships always emerge and always return to the wants and needs of their followers. This doesn't mean that they have to come up from that group. It means that they have to identify, literally, truly identify with that group's needs and wants. Consider this, and this is an extremely important aspect that I want you to please, if you have a moment, write it down. There is a statistical evidence. There's clear empirical data that says that people have people have a perception of their leaders, and that perception is the biggest factor in terms of how that individual is motivated and how that individual approaches their work. There's a strong statistical evidence that the perception that people have of their leaders is the biggest factor in motivation and influence regarding their work. Think about that for a moment. You may have an effective manager, but that leader brings an aspect of the vision, the core purposes I mentioned earlier. Now let's talk about another kind of approach to leadership, and it's called the power wielder. Check this out. Power wielders respond to the subject needs and motivations only to the extent they have in order to fulfill their own objectives and desires and their own direction, which remain their primary concern. I need to tell you that your team would rapidly detect this. And as a result of that, people will make you a manager, and they will make you a person with whom they will respond to by virtue of your authority, but not necessarily follow you by virtue of your principles, your ethics, or the direction of the vision that you may have, the strategic direction of your organization. So let's talk about now, a comparison between management and leadership. Comparison is fairly straightforward. Management adheres to the process of planning, organizing, executing, controlling resources and their financial, human, etc., to achieve a certain series of objectives. Leadership is the ability to inspire, to influence, to guide individuals or groups collectively to achieve that goal. And it's extremely important that you distinguish the two, because by doing so, you clarify the roles. And frankly, it enhances the organizational effectiveness. It enhances your ability to focus and know that you have to have an element of execution and consistency in your management approach, and at the same time, continue to influence and motivate and have that clear direction and guidance that a leader constantly instills in the teams. Here's a management overview, real quick. The art of getting things done through other people and resources. You will remember that from Peter Drucker's mantra. Peter Drucker was the father of management. Key responsibilities of managers: planning, organizing, controlling, directing. And the role of achieving an organizational goal. Managers have to, of course, ensure that day-to-day activities are achieved and they perform smoothly. Their perspective is within that framework, the daily, the short-term activities. Whereas leadership has a completely different approach. It's the art of influencing, inspiring others to achieve a shared vision. And this is where the delicate balance between management and leadership becomes a really important component of the overall execution of effective leadership and management combined. So what are the key responsibilities of leaders? Inspiring, motivating, setting a vision and a direction. People want to know that they have part in something that is considerably greater than themselves, because it fulfills a certain element of desire that we're doing something that matters. And a leader is constantly reminding that particular team of those very things. Building relationships, really connecting with a particular team to compel that team to really want to come to work. The level of engagement that this produces is enormous. And I want to convey something to you. Engagement leads to productivity, which leads to profits. Also, the leader is the chief decision maker, making the choices, especially in tough times, that are in pursuit of the greater good. The role is essentially to set the tone for a positive, innovative, collaborative, engaging environment. What are the key differences between one and the other? Here we go. Focus on task and focus on people. Managers focuses on process, task, while leaders prioritize people and relationships. Authority versus influence. Managers, of course, have a formal authority. It's essential that they have that. They are responsible for implementing and executing against a certain level of policies that are pre-established, while leaders earn influence through trust and respect. Please, this doesn't mean that the manager cannot do that as well. Maintenance versus innovation. Managers maintain existing processes, as I mentioned. Leaders drive innovation and change, constantly looking for something that could be done better. Short-term versus long-term. Managers focus on short-term goals. That's their job. While leaders look at the long-term vision. Where are we going? Where are we going to be in the next 2 years? Reactive versus proactive. Managers have to respond and react to existing issues, while leaders anticipate and proactively engage the process. I want to illustrate to you a couple of things. First of all, there are a number of theorists that have done extensive research in terms of the difference between the two. And there's a gentleman by the name of John Carter who, in his book, A Force for Change, clearly outlines those differences. And here's what he basically says. If we were to compare, for example, when you're creating an agenda, a manager plans steps, timelines, budgets, structure, resources, making sure that the people are there, etc. With a leader, establishes the direction and the vision of the overall direction. When you're developing a human network to achieve a particular agenda, a manager organizes the structure, gets the staff aligned, and establishes procedures to monitor the implementation and to ensure execution, while the leader ensures that people within the team align and buy into the overall vision and the direction, the strategic direction, the core purpose of the company or of the group. When you're executing a plan, the manager focuses on making sure that there's a clear path of obstacles, minimizes deviations from the plan to help produce results that are predictable, expected, established, where a leader energizes the people to overcome major obstacles toward achieving the vision. And here's the thing, a number of you have to straddle both roles. And now you're beginning to see how important it is for you to know when you are supposed to be a leader as opposed to when you're supposed to be in management. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people that just simply blend the two to a point that they get disfigured and they're not exactly sure when and where. But this, I hope, it's going to give you a little bit of perspective in terms of how you can go about doing some of your leadership aspects and responsibilities and activities as opposed to your managerial ones. I want to invite you, and first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time today. This is basically it. My name is Paul De La Garza. I'm an executive coach and speaker. Here's my information. And by the way, this is being recorded. It will be posted in LinkedIn. If you have information that you would like to gather and garner from some of these programs we have, please connect. There's a call to action here. Connect with us. And please join us every week, because every week we're going to have something very important in the context of leadership. The next one, or in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about effective delegation. Then eventually conflict resolution. We have a number of pieces of information that I think are going to be very important for you. But in the meantime, if you would like to have additional information about courses and about information that I have in context of leadership and executive coaching, please feel free to reach out. Again, this is Paul De La Garza. Thank you so very much for joining us. Have a wonderful day. Take care and be well.